In February 2020, we headed towards the legendary city of Troy, the one that was narrated by Homer in his poem, The Iliad. Homer told us a story set in the 13th century BC. It was a war between Spartans and Trojans. The reason is Helen, the most beautiful woman in Asia Minor. She was the wife of the king of Sparta, Menelaus, and Paris, prince of Troy, fell in love with her and took her to the famous Trojan city. From that moment on, the brother of the king of Sparta, Agamemnon, aided by the semigod Achilles, begins a war with Troy that will last 10 years. Due to the impenetrability of the city walls, according to Homer, these walls were so hard to destroy because gods such as Poseidon and Apollo had helped in their construction. When the Trojans believed that the war was over and that they were in peacetime, these people were boldly deceived by the Trojan herders. Taking his own executioner as an offering, the city was destroyed. From that moment on, the Trojan horse will be the most effective war strategy in the history of humanity to deceive and infiltrate the people. But let's get out of the myth and go through Troy from its archaeological point of view. Troy was inhabited in the Bronze Age, about 3,000 years BC, and the city continued to exist until the 12th century AD. Like Ephesus, Troy was a coastal city, but today the sea has retreated about 5 kilometers. The city was strategically located between the Aegean Sea and the Black Sea. It was considered the gateway between Western and Eastern cultures. On the western side, there was the Greek culture of Mycenae, and on the eastern side was Anatolia with the Hittite Empire. Troy was believed to be a legend until it was discovered in 1863. From there, the excavations began, and today, about 9 cities or 9 Troys have been revealed. Each of them belong to different historical periods. The Troy narrated by Homer would be the number 6 that belongs to the period that goes from 1750 to 1300 BC. We were struck by these 2 geometrical figures depicted in the bricks. There wasn't information available about them. We couldn't approach to look at them carefully because the passage was closed. Speculatively, it could be associated with the figure of the compass and the square that is a characteristic symbol of the Freemasons and that depict the great architect. Returning to its architecture, the wall of the city of Troy were impressive fortifications 5 meters wide and 8 meters high. This was an indication that not only the city was prosperous, but also it had the need to defend itself. A unique defensive structure of the city of Troy consisted of having no corners. These were replaced by a curve of 10 meters towards the edges. Since the corners were considered a condition of weakness for 45 walls, neither the Mycenaean culture nor the Hittite had this innovation. The ancient world had not forgotten the history of this legendary city. Herodotus, the famous Greek historian, also included in his accounts. Alexander the Great had visited the city before beginning his conquest of Asia. Roman emperors such as Julius Caesar, Augustus, and Hadrian used to claim Trojan ancestry. Emperor Constantine himself wanted to take the capital of Rome to Troy, but later Constantinople was chosen instead. The Gnostic Christians of the intellectual Alexandria will depict Helen of Troy as the feminine representation of the human spirit. But during the Middle Ages and the modern age, Troy will be forgotten, and it will not be rediscovered again until the end of the 19th century. It will only be remembered as a legend, as a myth. Greek mythology and archaeological discoveries inspired the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, to develop his theory. Freud said that ontogeny, the history of the individual, repeats phylogeny, the history of the species. History was not a dead element of the past, but it was alive in the present. And repetition, as an unconscious mechanism, was an example of a past that overlapped with the present. The unconscious would bring back to consciousness traumatic elements of a painful character without her noticing. In this way, such unconscious contents infiltrated and deceived the consciousness as the Trojan horse did. According to Freud, the cure was to make the unconscious conscious if we did not want to repeat the past. The Trojan horse was a traumatic event in the history of Trojans as well as humanity. Therefore, it is found in the collective unconsciousness of human beings, and any denial, forgetfulness, or lack of knowledge of this will generate the inevitable return of the same event, but under disfigured and unrecognizable forms. Finally, we leave the city of Troy. That same day, we crossed the channel of Sanical that separates Asia from Europe. Sanical is a port city that is located in the strait that connects the Aegean Sea with the Sea of Marmara, which in turn connects with the Black Sea. We return to the west, leaving aside the beautiful and mystical east. We didn't know what kind of future was coming. With innocence and Trojan naivety, that we would continue to travel the world freely. We didn't know how to recognize the new forms of expression of the Trojan horse. The lesson is clear. As long as humanity continues to deny its past, it will not stop repeating it. It will not cease to be deceived by the Trojan horse. Since Freud, we know that the key to getting out of deception is consciousness.